Hey traders, Raghee here. One of the things that I want to talk about here in this free recap video is the impact that Apple's ex-dividend cutoff for tomorrow had on the market and how we took advantage of that through the morning. And I want to also talk about the three kind of times of day that are pertinent to an intraday index futures trader. All right, and so that's what I want to make sure you guys kind of get a handle on as you go into tomorrow. Now, just remember, for the next 2 weeks, we're still, well, at least for the next week, we're still dealing with the summertime doldrums. We've got kind of 1 week down, almost 1 week to go, and you can really feel how lethargic the market is. Now, I don't think there's a general expectation for what a stock is going to do going into the cutoff for the ex-dividend. What does that mean? Well, if you want to have the 73-cent dividend that's going to be paid out next Thursday for your Apple shares, you've got to own Apple as of today, basically. Tomorrow was the cutoff. So I would anticipate Apple being strong into that kind of move. That's the way I usually play it. Now, even though I might anticipate it, it doesn't mean that that's what's going to ultimately happen. But if I know Apple is strong, then I know that there's a pretty good chance it's going to take the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Dow with it. So I need to see evidence of that there too. Now today we took long positions in the Russell, we took long positions in the NASDAQ, and a long position in the S&P. The NASDAQ and the Russell were my preference. The S&P only because the NASDAQ started to move up higher, and we were keeping a very, very close eye on Apple. As you can see here, I kind of turn Apple into an indicator, watching how it's moving and then how it's going to affect the NAS. Now, this is where I think it gets really important to understand the time of day and the, here we go, the distinct zones of a single trading day. Now, these are part of the notes that I share with the group every day. And this is what I want to share with you here today. There are three distinct zones for me. If I'm up super early, 4 a.m. Eastern, I might look at what I call the pre-market. And after 7, basically to about 9 is the pre-market, that 2-hour window. But it could be as large as 5 hours. And by the way, what's so special about 4 a.m.? It's the end of the Asian session. We typically have a little bit of volatility as the Asian session winds down. Between 9 and 9:30, it's a kind of funny time because whatever the trend was, it might kind of meander and continue into the bell. But when the bell rings, just think of it as a brand new day. It almost doesn't even matter what the market did from 4 to 9 or 4 to 9:29 a.m. Eastern. It doesn't matter. Think of it as a brand new day, brand new psychology, obviously a lot more volatility, a lot more volume, etc. And the market doesn't have to do what the market was doing before in the preceding anywhere from 2 to 5 hours. So treat it literally as a brand new psychology. And that psychology for me is going to roll into about 11 o'clock and then spend about 11 to 11:40 a.m. winding down as we wander into the lunchtime doldrums here in the US and the European markets close. So if I've got a stock that's not really, or if I've got an index futures that's not really doing what I think it should have been doing, that's a great way to kind of take inventory, reconsider what I want to do. And if I want to take profit, I'll hit what I call the eject button, because every time we go from one of these zones to the next, going from that 4 to 9 a.m. and then 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. and then from 1 to 4, basically in the beginning and end of every one of those is a volatility event, is a psychology, and an opportunity to say, you know what, I don't want to get in, or I want to in, or I don't want to be in the market anymore, right? I want in or I want out. Around 11 o'clock is a great time to assess whether or not you want out. Okay? And then again, the separate psychology with the 130 bid, which is a tendency, but it's a really interesting one. And then 3 to 4 has a psychology all of its own. And then we do it all over again. In fact, I don't consider the Asian market another distinct zone for myself, but it is one that is a distinct zone because obviously we start rolling into the Asian session where the typical price movement range is much, much lower. But think about these times, think about the eject buttons, and think about some of the larger narratives that are moving a market on any given day. Okay? Summertime doldrums is definitely something that's overarching these 2 weeks. Apple today was something that was definitely in play. I think that even one of the things that I think the market did not like were comments from FOMC member Evans today. We had some comments from Evans, and the market did not seem really at all to like those quite hawkish comments. The dollar's going to like that stuff. The stock market and the euro and even gold, not so much, okay? So in the premium video, we're going to talk about some trades we've got in currencies, because we've got quite a few currencies moving around right now. We'll talk about the trades we put on today in the morning chat, talk a little bit about this euro versus New Zealand, and talk about the Australian dollar, since part 2 of the central bank event is coming up with the monetary policy report. All right, I'll see you in the next update.